Before Solomon fell, darkness was already waiting. Long before altars were built, long before the kingdom was divided, forces opposed to God were already drawing hearts away from him. The nations around Israel worshipped false gods. Ashtoreth, the goddess of desire and seduction. Chemosh, the god of ruthless devotion. Molech, a god feared for the terrible sacrifices demanded in his worship. These idols stood upon hills and in sacred groves, and behind every idol was a deception, a lie that pulled people further from the living God. But these powers could not conquer Israel from the outside, so they entered through the heart of its king, Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. God had given him wisdom beyond measure. His kingdom prospered. His enemies were at peace. Silver became common in Jerusalem, and kings traveled from distant lands just to hear his wisdom. But success can create a danger all its own. God had warned Israel not to intermarry with nations that served other gods. Yet Solomon loved many foreign women, princesses from Egypt, women from Moab, Ammon, Edom, and Sidon. What began as political alliances slowly became personal attachments, and what seemed harmless at first became compromise. Year after year, the number of wives increased. The voices around Solomon grew louder. The warning of God grew quieter. The women he loved remained devoted to their own gods, and eventually, their devotion became his temptation. One request led to another, a shrine here, an altar there, a place of worship on a nearby hill. And the king who built the temple of the Lord began building altars for false gods. For Ashtoreth, he built a place of worship. For Chemosh, another altar rose. For Molech, yet another compromise. The hills surrounding Jerusalem began to change. Places once devoted to God became places of divided loyalty. And Solomon's heart, once completely devoted to the Lord, was no longer fully his. The tragedy was not that Solomon stopped believing God existed. The tragedy was that he allowed other things to share the place that belonged to God alone. And the Lord saw it. The God who had appeared to Solomon twice, the God who had blessed him beyond measure, the God who had given him wisdom, now spoke words of judgment.
Because your heart has turned away from me, the kingdom will be torn from your house, not in your days, but in the days of your son. The consequences would echo long after Solomon was gone. The kingdom would divide.
Israel would never be the same, and the wisest king who ever lived became a warning for every generation that followed. Because not every fall begins with rebellion. Some begin with compromise.
Solomon's greatest mistake wasn't losing his kingdom. It was allowing something else to take God's place in his heart. The lesson? Guard your devotion. Because compromise rarely destroys us all at once. It pulls us away from God one small step at a time. So ask yourself, what is competing for God's place in your life today? Think about it. God bless you.